Okay, so you're not gonna believe what happened to me last weekend. Like, I'm still kind of freaked out about it, and I don't even know if I'm processing it right, you know? But I gotta tell someone, and you're basically the only person I trust who won't think I'm completely losing it. So here's the thing. My sister Claire, you've met her, right? She called me up on Friday afternoon, totally out of the blue. And she's like, hey, I know this is super last minute, but would you mind watching Emma for the weekend? Derek and I really need to get away. And I'm thinking, okay, sure. Emma's my niece. She's 8 years old. She's adorable. How hard could it be? Claire and Derek live in this old house out in the suburbs. It's one of those places that's got character, you know? Like it was built in the 1920s or something, with all these weird quirks. The floors creak, there's oddly shaped closets everywhere, and the attic, oh man, the attic is this whole separate world up there. It's got this pull-down ladder, and it's full of old boxes and furniture that nobody's touched in probably decades. Anyway, I get there Friday evening, and Claire's already got her bag packed. She's got that look on her face like she's been dying for a break. I totally get it. Being a parent's exhausting. So she gives me the rundown. Emma's bedtime is 8:30. There's pizza money on the counter. Don't let her have too much screen time, the usual stuff. Then she and Derek take off, and it's just me and Emma. Friday night was totally fine. We ordered pizza, watched some animated movie about talking animals or whatever, and she went to bed without any fuss. I crashed on the couch, scrolled through my phone for a bit, and eventually fell asleep. Easy, right? Saturday morning, Emma woke me up around 7, way too early for a Saturday if you ask me. But she wanted pancakes, so I dragged myself into the kitchen and made them. We spent the day doing normal stuff. We went to the park, played some games, drew pictures. She's a good kid, you know? Super creative. Kind of quiet, but in a thoughtful way, not a weird way. But then Saturday night is when things got strange. It was probably around 9 o'clock. Emma had gone to bed maybe 30 minutes earlier, and I was downstairs watching TV with the volume low. And then I heard it, this creaking sound coming from upstairs. Now, old houses make noise, I know that. But this was different. It sounded like footsteps, like deliberate footsteps, walking around up there. I muted the TV and listened. Nothing. Just silence. So I figured it was probably just the house settling or whatever. I turned the TV back on and tried to ignore it. But then, like 5 minutes later, I heard it again. Creak, creak, creak. Slow and steady. Like someone was walking across the floor above me. Okay, now I'm a little weirded out. I got up and walked to the bottom of the stairs. And I called up, Emma, you okay up there, sweetie? No answer. So I went upstairs, and I peeked into her room. She was sound asleep, curled up with this stuffed bunny she's had since she was like 2. The nightlight was on, casting this soft glow, and she looked totally peaceful. I stood there for a second, just listening. The house was quiet. No more creaking. I felt kind of silly, honestly. Like, what was I expecting? A ghost? I went back downstairs and tried to shake it off. But I couldn't really focus on the TV anymore. I kept listening for sounds, and every little noise made me jumpy. Eventually, I just decided to go to bed early. I figured I'd feel better in the morning. But here's where it gets really creepy. I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't even know what time it was, maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, and I heard this sound. It was coming from above me, but not from the second floor, from the attic. It was this scratching noise, like something was dragging across the floor up there. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then it would stop. Then it would start again. My heart was pounding, and I'm lying there on the couch thinking, okay, it's probably just a raccoon or something. Old houses, they get animals in the attic all the time, right? That's gotta be it. But then I heard something else. It was faint, but I swear I heard it. It sounded like whispering, like someone was up there, talking really quietly. Okay, now I'm freaking out. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, and I just sat there on the couch, frozen, listening. The scratching stopped. The whispering stopped. Everything went quiet again. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I just sat there, wide awake, watching the ceiling, waiting for the sun to come up. When morning finally came, I felt like a total mess. Emma came downstairs around 7:30, all cheerful and asking if we could make waffles. I tried to act normal, but I kept thinking about those sounds. I wanted to check the attic, but I also really didn't want to go up there. After breakfast, I casually asked Emma, "Hey, sweetie, do you ever hear weird noises at night? Like creaking or scratching or anything?" She looked at me with these big, serious eyes and nodded. "Sometimes," she said quietly. "What kind of noises?" I asked, trying to sound chill about it. She shrugged. "Just sounds from the walls." The walls, not the attic, the walls. I felt this cold shiver run down my spine, but I forced a smile. "Oh, that's probably just the house settling. Old houses do that." She didn't say anything else, just went back to eating her waffles. But I could tell something was off. She seemed nervous, like she wanted to say more, but didn't know how. The rest of Sunday was pretty normal. We stayed busy, went outside, avoided talking about weird noises. But as it started getting dark, I noticed Emma getting quieter. She kept looking up at the ceiling, like she was listening for something. When bedtime came around, she didn't want to go upstairs. She kept stalling, asking for water, saying she wasn't tired yet. I finally convinced her to go up, and I tucked her in and read her a story. She held on to that stuffed bunny real tight. "Auntie?" she said as I was about to leave. "Yeah, sweetheart? Can you leave the hallway light on?" "Of course," I said. "And you know I'm right downstairs if you need anything, okay?" She nodded, but she still looked scared. I went back downstairs and sat on the couch, but I couldn't relax. I kept thinking about those sounds from the night before. The scratching, the whispering, and what Emma said about noises in the walls. Around 10 o'clock, I heard her scream. So yeah, Emma screamed, and I literally jumped off the couch and ran up those stairs faster than I've ever moved in my life. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I burst into her room, and she was sitting up in bed, clutching that bunny, tears streaming down her face. "Emma, what's wrong? What happened?" She was just staring at the wall next to her bed, breathing really fast, like she couldn't catch her breath. I sat down next to her and pulled her into a hug. "It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. What scared you?" She pointed at the wall with a shaking hand. "I heard it again," she whispered. "Someone's in there." I looked at the wall. It was just a normal wall, painted this pale yellow color, with a little shelf holding some of her books and toys. "In where, sweetie? In the wall?" She nodded, and more tears spilled down her cheeks. They were whispering. I heard them. Okay, so now I've got chills running all over my body, but I'm trying to stay calm for her sake. "It's probably just pipes or something, honey. Sometimes water in pipes can make weird sounds." But even as I said it, I didn't believe it, because I'd heard it too, that whispering. "Can I sleep downstairs with you?" Emma asked in this tiny, scared voice. "Absolutely," I said immediately. "Grab your bunny and your pillow. We're gonna camp out in the living room together." She practically flew out of that bed, and we went downstairs. I set her up on the couch with blankets and turned on some cartoons real quiet, just for background noise. She eventually fell asleep, but I stayed awake, sitting in the armchair across from her, watching her and listening. And that's when I heard it again. that scratching sound, coming from above us, from the attic. This time, I'd had enough. I was tired, I was scared, but I was also getting mad, you know? Like, if there's a raccoon or a squirrel or whatever up there, I needed to deal with it. And if it was something else, well, I needed to know. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, one of those big, heavy ones, and I went upstairs as quietly as I could. The hallway was dark, except for the little nightlight plugged into the wall. I stood under the attic access panel and just stared at it for a minute, trying to work up the courage. The scratching had stopped. Everything was quiet. I reached up and pulled the cord, and the ladder unfolded with this loud creaking sound that made me wince. I climbed up slowly, shining the flashlight ahead of me. The attic was dusty and cramped, filled with all these shadows. Old furniture covered in sheets, stacks of boxes, a broken rocking chair in the corner. I swept the flashlight around, looking for any sign of animals, droppings, chewed wood, anything. But I didn't see anything like that. Everything looked undisturbed, like nobody'd been up here in years. But then my flashlight landed on something that made my blood run cold. In the far corner of the attic, behind a stack of boxes, there was a blanket, like a regular blanket, the kind you'd sleep with. And next to it was a plastic water bottle, an empty granola bar wrapper, and a pillow. Someone had been sleeping up here. My hand started shaking so bad, I almost dropped the flashlight. I backed up toward the ladder, not taking my eyes off that corner. My mind was racing. Who would be living in my sister's attic? How long had they been here? Were they here right now? I climbed down that ladder so fast I almost fell, and I pulled it back up and pushed the panel closed. And then I just stood there in the hallway, breathing hard, trying to figure out what to do. I should call the police, right? That was the obvious thing. What if I was wrong? What if that stuff had been up there for months, left over from some previous owner or something? I didn't want to freak Claire out or get cops involved if it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. I knew it wasn't nothing. I went back downstairs and checked on Emma. She was still asleep. I grabbed my phone and I was about to dial 911 when I heard it. Footsteps, upstairs, slow and deliberate, walking across the second floor. I froze. The footsteps stopped, right above where I was standing. Then I heard a different sound, a creaking sound, like someone was opening a door. Emma's bedroom door. Oh my God, someone was in Emma's room. I didn't even think. I just ran. I ran up those stairs and down the hallway, and I threw open Emma's bedroom door, ready to, I don't even know what, fight, scream? But the room was empty. The window was closed. The closet door was shut. Nobody was there. But here's the thing that made my skin crawl. The shelf next to her bed. The one with the books and toys, it had been moved. Just slightly. Like maybe an inch away from the wall. And behind it, I could see something I hadn't noticed before. There was a gap. A space between the wall and the shelf where the wallpaper didn't quite line up. It looked like maybe there used to be something there, like a door that had been covered up. I moved the shelf, and sure enough, there was an outline. A rectangular seam in the wall, painted over but still visible if you looked close. It was a hidden door, leading into the wall. My whole body was shaking now. I pressed my ear against it and listened, and I heard breathing. Quiet, shallow breathing, coming from inside the wall. "I know you're in there," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm calling the police right now." You need to come out." The breathing stopped. For a few seconds, there was total silence. Then I heard movement, shuffling, and then a voice, muffled but clear enough to understand. "Please don't." It was a woman's voice, young, scared. I backed away from the wall, my phone in my hand, finger hovering over 911. "Who are you? Why are you in there?" There was a long pause. Then, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare anyone. I needed somewhere to stay." "You're living in the walls?" I said, my voice going up an octave. "In my sister's house?" "I didn't have anywhere else to go," the voice said, and I could hear her crying now. "I've been so careful. I only come out at night when everyone's asleep. I didn't think anyone would notice." This was insane. Completely insane. "You need to come out right now," I said firmly. "I'm not kidding. Come out or I'm calling the police." "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay, I'm coming out. Just please don't call them, please." I heard scraping sounds, like she was pushing against something. Then part of the wall, the hidden door, swung inward with a soft creak, and a girl emerged. She was probably in her early 20s, thin, with dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing jeans and a hoodie, and she looked absolutely terrified. She held up her hands like she was surrendering. "I'm sorry," she said again, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry." I just stared at her, trying to process what I was seeing. "How long have you been living here?" "About 2 weeks," she said quietly. "I found the access point in the basement. There's spaces between the walls, old servant passages or something. I've been moving around, trying to stay hidden." "Why?" I demanded. "Why would you do this?" She looked down at her feet. "I got evicted from my apartment. I lost my job. I didn't have anywhere to go, and I don't have family here. I was sleeping in my car, but then it broke down and I couldn't afford to fix it. I was desperate. I saw this house had an old structure, and I thought maybe I could just stay for a little while, just until I figured things out." Part of me felt sorry for her. I mean, I couldn't imagine being that desperate. But another part of me was furious. "You terrified my niece. She's 8 years old, and you've been creeping around in the walls while she's trying to sleep." "I know," she sobbed. "I know, and I feel horrible about it. I never wanted to scare anyone, especially not a kid. I tried so hard to be quiet. I didn't know what to do. I should have called the cops right then. That would have been the smart thing, the safe thing. But looking at her standing there, crying, looking like she hadn't eaten a decent meal in weeks, I don't know. I guess I felt conflicted." "Sit down," I finally said, gesturing to Emma's bed. "Don't move. I need to think." She sat down obediently, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. I kept my phone in my hand, ready to dial if she tried anything. "What's your name?" I asked. "Melissa," she said quietly. "Okay, Melissa, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna gather whatever stuff you have hidden in there, and you're gonna leave right now. And if I ever find out you came back here, or if you try this in someone else's house, I will call the police. Do you understand?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for not calling them." "I'm not done," I said. "Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna make some calls. I'm gonna find you a shelter, a place that can actually help you. I'll leave the information at the coffee shop on Main Street, the one near the library. You can pick it up there. But you cannot keep living in people's walls. That's not okay. It's dangerous and it's illegal and it's terrifying." She nodded again, more tears falling. "I understand. Thank you, really." I watched as she crawled back into the wall and started pulling out her things. A backpack, that blanket I'd seen, a few other items. It only took her a couple minutes. Then she stood there awkwardly, holding her stuff. "The basement door's probably easiest," I said. "I'll walk you out." We went downstairs quietly. Emma was still asleep on the couch, thank God. I unlocked the basement door, and Melissa slipped out into the night. Before she left, she turned back to me. "I really am sorry," she said one more time. "I know," I said. "Just get help, okay? Real help." She nodded and disappeared into the darkness. I locked the door behind her and just stood there for a minute, trying to process everything that had just happened. Then I went back to the living room and sat down next to Emma, watching her sleep peacefully, finally, without any strange sounds in the walls. The next morning, Claire and Derek came home around noon. Emma ran to hug them, and I pulled Claire aside while Derek was unpacking the car. "We need to talk," I said. I told her everything. The sounds, finding the setup in the attic, the hidden door, Melissa. She went pale, then angry, then weirdly sad, all in the span of like 5 minutes. "Oh my God," she kept saying. "Oh my God, I can't believe someone was living in our walls." "You need to seal up those access points," I said. "Like, today, and maybe get the locks changed, just to be safe." She nodded, already pulling out her phone to call someone. "Did you really not call the police?" "I probably should have," I admitted. But she seemed more desperate than dangerous, you know? "I did leave information about shelters at that coffee shop, like I said I would. I don't know if she'll actually go." Claire hugged me tight. "Thank you for protecting Emma, and for handling it. I don't know what I would have done. They got everything sealed up that week, checked every wall, every crawl space, every possible way someone could get in." Emma seemed better once she knew the wall person was gone. Claire told her it was someone who was lost and confused and that she'd gone to get help, which seemed to satisfy her 8-year-old logic. As for me, I kept thinking about Melissa for weeks afterward, wondering if she found help, wondering if she was okay. Part of me feels like maybe I did the right thing by not calling the cops, but another part of me wonders if I should have handled it differently. I guess I'll never really know, but I'll tell you this much. I'll never look at an old house the same way again. And whenever I hear weird sounds at night now, yeah, I definitely investigate, 'cause you just never know what or who might be hiding in the walls.